10 a.m. or on YouTube, channel 𝗛𝗲𝗏 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.
Hi, I'm Nicole Jacinto. Join us on Healthline with 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 as we discuss the latest health and medical topics with doctors from 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏. For a healthier and uplifting lifestyle, tune into Healthline with 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 on 𝗛𝗲𝗏𝗏 8:10 a.m. Radio Bandido TV. You've got questions, we've got answers.
Watch and listen to Healthline with 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏, Mondays, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Airing on Sky Cable Channel 224 and on all DTT boxes. Simulcasting online on Facebook and YouTube. Listen and watch on your mobile devices. Just search 𝗛𝗲𝗏 Radio Bandido.
You're about to experience Healthline, a show where doctors from 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 interact with you for a healthy, uplifting lifestyle. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto. You've got questions, we've got answers. So welcome to Healthline.
Hi everybody and welcome to Healthline with 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏. I'm your host, Nicole Jacinto. How are you doing today? It's July 8th, Monday, 5 p.m. here in the Philippines, in Metro Manila, in fact. And of course, we're going to discuss a medical topic with one of the doctors from 𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏 or Makati Medical Center. We're going to talk with Dr. 𝗛𝗛𝗏𝗏𝗃𝗏, and he is an endocrinologist. So welcome to the show, doctor.
Hi, Nicole. Pleasure to be here.
Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you here. Hope to see you soon in person. Not necessarily for an illness, but and it's always nice to meet people that I meet online through this show. Plus, I always bring people to the hospital anyway, so maybe one of these days we will meet, whether it's an illness for me or somebody else. Okay, so today our topic is obesity, but before we start, I'd like to say happy birthday to my sister Nadine, and Nadine is definitely not obese. I have been told I am obese, but I don't know. So for all of you out there, this is a show where we're going to discuss obesity and like how, in fact, doctors calculate it or diagnose it in medical terms and in clinical terms also. Not just a lot of people are affected these days, and they have been for a long time, about body image, especially women, especially Filipinas. So, just feel free to, for those who have questions that they want answered on the show, feel free to jump in anytime and send us a message. Or if not, you can always listen to the show and you can listen over and over again. So we're going to use terms that some people will use to describe people who are overweight or obese or whatever, or fat, let's just say it. So that's it. And we're going to say thin and slim and all of these things because we need to discuss this. And I think there's also some psychological impact to it. So let's get right down to it, Dr. Po. What is obesity? When you say someone is obese. Mm-hmm.
Yes. When you say when someone is obese, obesity is actually defined as an abnormal or excessive accumulation of fat. Mm-hmm. So it's not, and that accumulation of fat is a risk to health. So it's not necessarily someone is just overweight or whatnot, or it just says fat. It's that fat accumulation is actually going to cause problems for the body later on. Now, in terms of how do we say when someone is obese or not, there are multiple methods to do that. But as I believe I think you're very familiar with some of them, if you've heard of BMI, or just basically the weighing scale.
Okay. So, doctor, you already mentioned BMI, so let's go to that. Like, what exactly is BMI? I know it's body mass index, but can you explain it to Can you explain it to our viewers and our listeners, our audience, basically? And can you tell us how exactly it's calculated and all that, and how it's related to obesity, to determining if someone is obese? So
Okay.
basically, how do you diagnose obesity?
Okay, so we usually diagnose obesity using BMI. It's the most prevalent, or it's the most widely used basis to measure obesity. So BMI, body mass index, is actually measured by using our weight and our height. So
Okay.
it depends. The calculation differs if we use kilograms or pounds. No,
Yes.
so if we're going to use kilograms, it's our weight in kilograms,
Hmm?
our height in meters squared. Or to make it simpler, so it's easier. It's our weight in kilograms divided by our height in meters twice. So kilograms divided by height divided by height again. So
Okay.
The worldwide definition for overweight is actually a BMI of 25 and above, while obesity is 30 and above. Naman.
Okay, so yes, it depends also. Like here we use kilograms and meters, and then in other places we use inches, or like
Yes.
I'm 5'3" or I'm 5'4", and then it's the things that appear on our license, isn't it? Height, weight, and you're like, why? My weight. It could change. Like people get conscious about that even. I'm like, I don't know. Do I have a weighing scale right now? Why do you need to know it for me to drive? Maybe my height, because it can help people describe me. But at a certain point when you're an adult, you don't grow taller anymore, but okay. So there. So as you said, okay, it's a body mass index. You use the height and the weight, and then you divide it. It's weight divided by height divided by weight again. And if it's 0.30 and above, you're considered obese. However, doctor, may I ask you, there are people who are slim. Are there people who are slim but can be obese because their fat is, if you actually measure the fat in their body, it's unhealthy? Or is that another illness or condition? Is there a term for that?
Okay. There are people who are slim that actually, when you get their BMI, is rather big. That's not big really because the fat is really there. Muscle is actually denser than fat. So there, when you see bodybuilders and they're really big, but some of them are really have like big arms, big muscles. When you get their weight, they actually weigh more than a person on the same frame, but yung average build. So most bodybuilders actually have an abnormally high BMI. But going back to the definition, it's the percentage of the excess fat accumulation. So for that particular instance, we can't really use BMI. So that's what we use other methods for.
Okay, other methods. So there's a bit of a limitation in terms of when it comes to people who are slim or lean, but it's muscles. And actually, as you said, muscles are denser. True or false question for those out there, because I've always been told this, and I believe it's true. Muscle is heavier than fat.
True.
Okay, true. Okay. So you see, my friends who are thin and slim, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, but look at your size. It's smaller. It's because muscle is heavier. What other methods do you use when it comes to someone who might be slim but wants to know, or you think they may be obese or something?
Okay.
How would you tackle that?
Yeah. There are multiple methods we are actually available to us. No, one of them is the simple waist circumference, which is another very, very touchy topic when it comes to general population. But we measure the waist halfway between the lowest rib and halfway between the lowest rib and the hip bone, the top of your hip. So it's usually at the line of the navel or the umbilicus. So there are certain ethnicity specific numbers for that. Pero syempre, when someone is obese, those run in the hundreds, even the high 90s. But that's not the only one we're able to use. Another one is a waist to hip ratio. So another one, you measure the waist, then the hip. Tapos you divide the two. So if you see a ratio of around 0.8, meaning slimmer on the top than the hip, medyo okay pa tayo. But when it's a straight line, 1:1 ratio, that's when we have problems. That's one way. The clinical way we do things, it's a bit more different. No, we actually have a machine in the hospital called an DEXA scan, which can actually measure the amount of fat straight away. No questions asked. That's what you're gonna get a readout of.
Okay, that's great. I mean, are these machines new? Have they been around for a long time?
They've been around for quite a while, but of course, for the purposes of availability, syempre, BMI is it's an easier way to get the data. As in, anyone can go on a weighing scale, get their height, then do the computation themselves. So it's more accessible. That other than pipila lahat, everybody's gonna go in a line in the hospital just to get checked. So for our purposes, and these are already very, very studied methods, the BMI, waist circumference, and waist to hip ratio, they are all very accessible means to measure how much fat we have.
Thank you, doctor. Okay, so that's great because we know that if you're on the slim side, but for some reason you are obese or you suspect you're obese, then you can go to a doctor like Dr. Po or to Dr. Po himself and actually get it measured if you want the exact with a machine, if you want, if you want to confirm it. And of course, the BMI is as you said, it's the average way of getting it because it's a lot easier. It's more available to everyone, and especially in areas where their hospitals may not be as well equipped as Makati Med is, and also in the more economically depressed areas of our country, the clinic, if somebody walks in, I think, doctor, you're probably the type, somebody walks in, you may be able to tell if they're obese, but if they want confirmation, because there's a difference probably also between, let's say you're a bit heavy or overweight, or you think you're kind of fat or you're plump, all these terms, you may not be obese. And, it's just that it gets thrown around a lot, and people tend to freak out. And our purposes for discussing it here it's really health purposes. Okay, so doctor, what causes obesity?
Okay, so when we talk about causes of obesity, there are multiple things. In general, if there are no sicknesses involved, it's, in a general term, it's more energy coming into the body than energy coming out. So if we eat more energy than we use, the body has to store it. So the body stores it as fat. So in that case, one is a very, very, very excessive diet is one. So if we eat too much energy comes in. Okay, so the other way is physical activity. If we don't have proper exercise routines, or it's a rather sedentary lifestyle, tulog, kain, we don't have much energy coming out. So all of that nets to an excess of energy in the body, which the body has to store as fat. Other factors, of course, there are some illnesses that actually cause obesity, and some treatments to illnesses that actually increase weight. So for those purposes, we of course, talk to your doctor, but the first two are the key factors that applies to everyone.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So like if we eat too much and we don't move around enough, or we may move around, but we're still eating too much, then that's also probably maybe later related to some illnesses or medication. We can circle back to that.
Yes.
then the body will store it as fat because it stores that energy. It's supposed to be there to be burned off. Am I correct? Just please jump in anytime and correct me.
Yeah.
To be burned off.
When our body has to store the energy. So if we eat too much of anything and we don't really use it, the body isn't just gonna magically get rid of the excess energy. So it puts it as fat so we can use it later on. So that's why for some people who don't actually, for example, some people end up not eating their lunch or not eating for the day when they're stressed. They end up using that stored fat. So that's one way of going about it. Or for example, they suddenly have to go, they suddenly decide to go on a fun run. They use that excess energy that was stored as fat to go on that fun run.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of balancing out the energy coming in and the energy coming out.
Yeah, that's great, doctor. It's great you mentioned that because one of the things I was gonna ask you later on, circle back, and one of the things that I tell some of my friends who are like, on diets or like they'll only eat once a day or something, and I don't know if they're on actual proper diets. They will say, I hardly eat or I don't eat, but I still can't get rid of this sort of belly fat or spot here. And I would tell them that your body thinks you're starving, so it's storing it. I mean, that is my way of putting it. Is that something similar to what you said? Should I continue telling them that? Or should I use
it really depends. Well, for people who struggle with weight in general, and they find that they've done most of the things that are usually done, but somehow don't have results, it's really important to get checked by a doctor, because there may be the reason behind the weight gain or the keeping the weight on, maybe there is an illness involved in the matter. So that could be something else. But in general, for those people who don't have any sicknesses, who don't have medical concerns known to them, the excess eating of food or the increased intake of food, even if it's just one meal in the day, but if that food intake actually surpasses the entire requirement for your day, right? So it doesn't, the one meal a day still has to apply to the rule that the net influx of energy is proportional to how much you use in the day. Okay, so if you have one meal in the day, but in that one meal you already eat enough calories to sustain your entire day and then some of that will definitely go into fat deposition.
Yeah. Yes. I myself have experienced that. There are times when I'm stressed or like when I, was very busy living abroad. Like, I mean, my meal schedule would not be regular because I have to finish that, I have to do this. So then I would end up eating like fewer meals a day. And I'm just sharing my own experience because I have a bunch of friends watching this. And then you notice you get fatter. I noticed I got fatter because I probably pigged out during those meals, and then when my meals are more regular, even if I eat 4 times a day, I tend to slim down automatically. And also because you're getting fuller or something. And maybe could it be like your metabolism also acting like after you eat, like the more. Not naman like having 10 meals a day, but if you eat just right, let's say the intake is just right with every meal, does it also activate your metabolism to be in better shape?
Okay. When the thing about what you mentioned for your purposes, you said you were stressed on those some of the days at work.
I'm mentioning myself as an example, so because and not others. So.
Yeah. So for that instance, one other thing you could notice is that we don't really have that much prep time. We don't really think about what we can eat. So sometimes what's available, what's readily available, what's easy to get. So what happens is we end up getting, I'm busy, so I want to get something a quick bite to eat. But sometimes the calories in that are exorbitantly higher. It's a bit more greasy. It has more calories than the usual food you like. So in contrast that to you or anyone who's not as stressed, who has the time to prepare the food they like. So know what's going into your body. You know the amount of food that you're going to eat. So you prepare it beforehand or you prepare it that time. So if you eat certain foods, we'll definitely end up discussing this later on. When you eat certain food, some foods actually cause you to feel fuller faster.
Okay. We can circle back to that later, doctor. Okay. All right. Actually, doctor, why don't we take a short break, and then perhaps I can ask you, like, how someone can maybe start telling if they're obese, and what illnesses can arise from being obese, and continue our discussion on the type of food you eat, and how many times a day you eat, and all of that. We just have to take a short break, doctor, to remind people about some of the services of Makati Med, and we'll be right back. So all of you guys, stay tuned. It's getting really interesting. Go grab a snack. Just kidding. Go grab a snack. And while we're doing the break. Okay, we'll be right back.
You're listening to DZRJ 810 AM. We'll be right back after these reminders.
Hi, this is Dr. 𝗛𝗶𝘁𝗵 from Makati Medical Center, and I'm happy to share that our world-class quality healthcare with the heart is now more accessible and affordable through Makati Med Care Access at 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗵𝗹𝗆. Available for outpatient care services, our 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗵𝗹 site offers consultation and diagnostic procedures such as medical assistance, hospital admission assistance, blood pressure monitoring, laboratory tests, and X-ray, among others. This is really convenient for those residing in Makati and nearby areas who do not want to go to the hospital to have these treatments and procedures done. We believe that access to excellent quality and compassionate healthcare is a basic human right, and we at Makati Med 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗵𝗹 are doing our best to make this possible to more people. We are open from Monday to Saturday at 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the third floor of 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗵𝗹 in Makati City. For inquiries, you may reach us at these numbers. We look forward to serving you here at Makati Med Care Access 𝗥𝗲𝗃𝗵𝗹. Hi, this is Dr. 𝗛𝗶𝘁𝗵 from Makati Medical Center, and I'm happy to share that our world-class quality healthcare with the heart is now more accessible and affordable via Makati Med Mobile Care Access. As the name suggests, this service is mobile, which means that we go to where you are. Mobile Care Access deploys a team of professionals for face-to-face consultations and to conduct basic laboratory and diagnostic procedures, as well as vaccination and testing, depending on your needs. We can go to any location of your choice within the metro and readily offer these healthcare services to communities or groups. For added convenience, different modes of payment are available, including HMO benefits for those with a valid letter of authorization. We believe that access to affordable, quality, and compassionate healthcare is a basic human right, and we at Makati Med are doing our best to make this possible to more people. For inquiries, scheduling, or pre-registration, you may reach out to us at the following numbers. We look forward to coming to you and serving your community with Makati Med Mobile Care Access.
You're back with Healthline. keeping you healthy. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Healthline with Makati Med. Did you grab a snack? Okay, we're talking about obesity, and it's not, I'm kidding around, but it's not bad to eat. In fact, you should eat, and you should eat healthy. And that was one of the things that we were talking about earlier that doctor mentioned, and we'll get to that in a bit more. Just to recap, doctor, when you're obese, it's basically what causes it is putting in more energy or more food and not releasing it in the way that you should, which is by physical activity and or exercise, as you put it. But may I ask you, doctor, what type of physical activity or exercise? Because, for example, there are people who do not have illnesses and they tend to gain weight, but they do a lot of housework. And that's still an activity. And then, you can see them like sweating and all of that. Like, is there a certain type of exercise that's best for expending the energy instead of your body storing it?
Okay, that's one of the better questions because it's one of the biggest myths is that the main way we get rid of calories is exercise.
Okay.
Supposedly. Pero the way our body works is that our body has what we call a basal metabolic rate. It's basically what we need to just keep ourselves going. So to breathe, to keep our hearts pumping, that's what we need. So that is a big chunk of the calories we eat in a day.
Okay.
So aside from that, there's something called non-exercise associated intake. So basically, our basic motion, standing up, even standing up straight, or even just holding your arms out, it uses calories to burn, and it uses even more calories than actual exercise. So the formal exercise, the running, the usual myth about you have to do 600 burpees to burn off one donut. That's not necessarily true. No? So, but in terms of general health and well-being, exercise is important. It's really, really something that is advocated across all specialties of medicine. No? So when we talk about exercise, there are recommended hours and minutes of exercise per week. So for the general population, it's around 150 minutes per week. Divided into how many days. So a bit of math is involved. So I basically just say an hour 3 days a week. That's my general rule.
You can either do it every day or an hour 3 days a week. Like you could do it. You could divide it. Could you divide it into like 7 days or 5 days or 3? As you said, 3 times a week.
That's basically up to you. The important thing is it's there.
Okay.
And anything worth doing is worth doing poorly. So even if you can't do the whole hour, sabihin natin, you're stressed at work. You're when you get home, you're tired.
Yes.
Even if you can't do the whole hour, do a 30-minute routine. As long as you keep doing it. What's very, very important in obesity medicine is consistency. So consistency of the diet, consistency of the exercise routine, that's what's going to get you results.
In talking about consistency, doctor, okay, some people might consider it consistent to do the whole, thing in 1 day or 2 days, but that's not the same, is it? I mean, they're like, I think in the 80s, they were like weekend warriors. Like they would not exercise at all during the week and then suddenly go for a long run and a quick, a very like tiring long run on a Saturday morning or something. Is there that is not as an endocrinologist or someone talking about obesity, perhaps that's not good for the heart or something because you work yourself up too much and you're not in shape for it actually. But as an endocrinologist, just for the purposes of talking about intake of energy and then expending it, would that be enough?
Okay. So you do have a point in terms of some people who are trying to be healthy suddenly fine. Suddenly decide I'm gonna do it this week. I'm gonna go on a marathon on the weekend without any prep time. So
Yeah.
it's all about consistency. Then talaga, going back to that point. So at that point, it's scary for one, because sometimes people don't know that they have other problems pala, that they may have a heart condition that may be aggravated by that sudden strenuous activity. So we go slow and go short. So
Yeah.
as long as you build up, you take steps going forward, meaning I'm gonna do 25. I do 20 minutes today. Then next week I'll do 30. And just small gains accumulating over time, rather than I do 100 minutes. I do 2 hours today. Then I did naman 2 hours last week.
Yeah.
Okay, then it's a step back. So we like small incremental steps forward rather than the one step forward, two step back stories.
Yeah.
So for our purposes, I would rather like to divide the benefit, the exercise time throughout the week, hopefully on non-alternating days. So I usually tell my patients, you get to pick. It's either MWF or TTHS. Or so because you also divide the benefits of the exercise throughout the week. So you feel better throughout the week instead of just feeling either, well, depends if you feel better after an hour running after Saturdays, or you don't feel good as much.
Yeah.
But the important thing is the exercise happens.
Okay, thank you, doctor. Yeah, no, and then also you know you can get muscle pains and all of that. Then it'll be harder the next time, and then the lactic acid is being released. So I mean, thank you for answering the question and answering it as a doctor, which would mean like benefiting people the most. I mean, you'd give the best medical answer possible, the healthiest way to do it. Earlier we were talking about, before we circle back to the types of food that we should or should not be eating, or that can cause obesity more than others. There is this intermittent fasting diet. What do you think of that? I mean, because I actually don't really know how it works. I've never tried it, but some people were explaining it to me, and they were explaining what they do. Like, they only eat, I guess, once a day it is, or, I mean, how do you feel about that?
Okay, so I get that question a lot sa clinic. Actually, it's called, what most people call it OMAD, or 1 meal a day.
Okay.
So for that purposes, intermittent fasting, there are studies that actually show its benefit. But my problem lies in the misnomer that people think that, okay, in that 1 meal a day, I can basically eat what I want.
Yeah.
So
I've heard
the intermittent fasting works because for a specific duration of time, when you don't eat anything, your body has to convert to using fat. So yes, if, for example, if you're not eating 16 hours, sooner or later in that 16 hours, you're going to be burning the fat in your body because your body is using it for energy. One big concern we have is that 1 meal. I remember we talked about this a while ago. If you're going to eat the 3 meals a day, the sum of the 3 meals of your day in that 1 meal, then you're still gonna go into a surplus. You're gonna go into a caloric surplus, which will end up depositing more fat. So usually, if people have to go on 1 meal a day or intermittent fasting, they have to be guided by either a doctor or a dietitian. This is the set amount of calories you're going to be able to eat. This portion goes to this particular macronutrient or not. So it's well guided. It's not so it's not as simple. How we wish obesity was simple.
Yes.
But there are these niche areas that we do have to talk about. And the details are important, one of which is the total calories you eat in a day. So long story short, if you eat too much of if there are too many calories in a day, whether you eat it in 3 times a day or once a day, it's still not, the person's still not going to lose weight because it's going to be a net positive. They're gonna gain weight, even more weight. Or yung like most people na nangyayari is they find out how I'm not losing weight. It's because the fat that was supposedly lost during the fasting was gained back by that one meal.
By that one meal. And I've heard that a lot. Like, I can eat anything and eat as much as I want in that one time a day. I mean, there's really a misconception because I've heard that a lot from people doing it. They're like, you should try intermittent fasting. I'm like, no. but you're kind of doing it anyway because you end up eating and say, yeah, but it's not. And there could also be other issues like, I don't know, blood sugar levels. I mean, that would be one of your things as an endocrinologist, or, I mean, we'll get to some of the things you treat also when okay, so let's get to the question, like, before we talk about the problems that obesity can cause and like the types of food when it comes to becoming obese. How come some people gain weight more quickly and or manage to stay thinner, and some people have a harder time staying thinner or maintaining a certain weight? Or why do they just tend to be bigger or fatter for that matter? And there are some things I know with that you especially deal with, like when it comes to the thyroid gland, but perhaps you can explain that to us.
Okay, so there is such a thing as a genetic lottery.
Yeah.
There are people that are blessed with a metabolism that really processes that's a fairly high metabolism, even without the thyroid gland concern. That for some reason, even if they eat, they really don't gain that much weight because their body processes it very, very fast. However, when it comes to when you mentioned the illnesses that involve the obesity, one of them is diabetes. The body has trouble processing sugar. So one of the metabolic byproducts of that is everything basically turns to fat. So in early diabetes, people gain weight. However, in the really, really bad cases of diabetes, the body is forced to use just fat and protein. So those people end up losing a lot of weight.
Yes.
But that's a totally different animal altogether. Now we go back, circle back to obesity.
If it's diabetes type 1, is it like more of the weight loss that you'll see when it's bad? I mean, like, if it does it depend also on the type of diabetes? Because like if it's type 2, then I notice people tend to be like bigger, and then they have to like losing weight can help. But for the others who are born diabetics and it's type 1, they always kind of remain thin.
For type 1 diabetics, they actually present really lean. They don't have that much fat to grow because their primary problem is the lack of insulin. Most of the times when people with diabetes type 2, those are the ones that develop the increased body mass. At the same time, they also present both ways. They can either be really extra plump, or they can be really, really thin already, depending on the severity. So it depends on how we are able to see them, or if we're able to catch them early in the clinics. Now, if we circle back to the hypothyroidism you mentioned, the thyroid you mentioned, one of the big things that can actually cause weight gain is actually hypothyroidism, or the lack of thyroid hormone. I usually say that the thyroid is your body's battery. So you feel like when you're hypothyroid, you don't have much to go on. So since your body doesn't use that much energy at that point in time, all the excess calories end up becoming fat. Because remember, your thyroid is in charge of your metabolism. So if you have a lower metabolism, then you need less calories to gain weight.
And then if you have hyperthyroidism, then you tend to get thinner because it's burning.
Yes. Yes, the opposite is true. For hyperthyroid patients with very increased metabolism, these are the people that are somehow always famished. They always eat, but somehow they don't gain a pound. They actually end up losing weight. So some people think of it as a blessing, but later on, down the line, when things get really dire, that's where the problems really happen. So it's important to keep these other medical illnesses in check. There are others, off the top of my head, Cushing's or excess cortisol. That's one. But there are multitude of diseases that actually have the side effect of gaining weight. And one other thing, there are multiple medications, treatments for some diseases that are a product of gaining weight. So it's important to talk to your doctor about these. Well, I may be gaining weight right now. Then your doctor will review your medications for you. And sometimes if the goal of not gaining weight is already stated during the initial consultation, your doctors will definitely look for the more weight-friendly medications in terms of management.
Okay, I'll go through some of the things like with a few questions I have based on what you said. For the hypo and hyperthyroidism, actually, yes, I have a second or third cousin. Like when we were younger, we would all, kind of hang out together, and she had a thyroid problem, and she had hyperthyroidism, but she didn't want to take the medication because she said it made her thin. Otherwise, she'll gain weight. But of course, later on, she encountered problems and she started taking the medication already. And then for the hypo, you said, like, of course, the thyroid, you said, acts as you compared it to a battery, your body's battery. When you have hypothyroidism, if you don't take medication for it, I mean, you can gain weight, no? And do you also feel like more sluggish and move slowly? And then that's why you eat? Because you're like, I need to like eat or something, or maybe even if you don't eat in excess, you still gain weight.
Yes, actually, for hypothyroid patients, that's where they get really frustrated. Sometimes, some of my patients, when I see them for obesity, when I actually test for hypothyroidism, they come out as positive. It's because in the background of hypothyroidism, you don't even have that much of an appetite either. So people end up talking na, I don't eat that much. There's nothing going in, but when I do, I gain weight already. So there's that area that if we don't really check, if we just do the regular diet and exercise routine, but we don't really check out for the other causes of obesity, we may be set up for frustration because people end up not losing weight at all.
And then, doctor, there are also people, just to clarify, there are also people, as you said earlier, who are just in the genetic lottery. Like some are just their metabolism is great and they can eat as much as they want in a way, or they can eat a lot compared to other people, but they stay thin, but they're not necessarily ill. They don't necessarily have hyperthyroidism. Just clearing that up to clarify.
Yes. Not everybody who eats and is hyperthyroid.
Okay. All right. Good. And then, so we talked about medications and how some medications have the side effect of making you bigger or fatter. Is it in terms of like some medications I don't know, somehow like interfere with your metabolism and make you not lose weight, and then there are other examples as well. I just want you to jump in anytime and let me know, because like, let's say it's an allergy medicine and then it makes you sleepy. The side effect is not hunger but sleepiness, but you kind of have to fight off the sleepiness, and then you feel hungry. So that's like a second thing. You feel hungry, or you eat to wake yourself up, or you you sleep, you're drowsy, so you don't get the exercise. So even something as simple as that, no, as simple as taking an antihistamine can do that to you. And there are other types of medication also, like perhaps, perhaps. Oh my God! See, I got
Okay.
karma from making fun of people. Perhaps. Okay, there's
It's
my
okay.
karma.
So
I got
So, to that antihistamines don't cause, but some people might stop taking their allergy
yeah.
medications.
Don't stop.
Yeah, antihistamines are not proven to cause obesity.
Yeah.
However, are some medications in the market that do. Most of, sad to say, there are medications for the treatment of diabetes, for one, that actually cause weight gain. Number one is insulin. The other one is TZDs. There's one particular class that actually makes you retain more water. So in that instance, you gain more weight, but it's not fat weight. It's
Okay.
water weight.
It's water
So
weight.
those are the technicalities at hand. There are other instances that there are medications that neurologists use and psychiatrists use that actually do impact weight in a very big way. That's important. That's why in obesity medicine, it's important for us to be aware of all the medications that the patient is taking, so we can reconcile that with what's happening, so we can explain it better.
You mentioned neurologist, so that maybe things like pregabalin or gabapentin, or I don't want to mention the brand name, but some of them, I think perhaps can make you a bit heavier. But the thing is, I guess, doctor, the important thing is you just have to balance things and not, be very obsessed with the body image of us, or a standard. I'm talking to people out there, a standard of being super slim, and actually you look like a boutique. I mean, being super slim or being obsessed with the idea of having to look a certain way, as long as you're healthy. Because, like as you said, talk to your doctor about it, address it. Doctor like you, endocrinologist, would be great. And then also, if you have neurological issues, perhaps you have, migraines or trigeminal neuralgia or something like that, then they'll give you some medications, and then you feel like you can't live with the pain, but you can't live also with the medicine, taking the medicine upsets you because you feel like you're gaining weight because of it. You just, I guess, have to find a balance.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned insulin. Go ahead, doctor.
Yeah. So another thing, because people might stop taking their pain medications now.
Don't.
Pregabalin, gabapentin, those are rather weight neutral medications. The class of medications that actually have more of a weight gain effect are mood stabilizers, antidepressants, which of course they are important to take because mental health is an important thing. So we really can't focus on our form first if we don't take care of our mind first. So that's where we deal with what the needs of the other subspecialties. So if their medications do indeed cause some weight gain, it's our purpose in obesity medicine that we work with the patient and in the other ways that we can reduce the weight, so that it doesn't impact their body image as much as it would if we weren't there.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. Okay. So, doctor, what health problems can obesity cause?
Oh, okay. That is Pandora's box. It'd probably be easier to talk about what it doesn't cause.
Okay.
But
right.
in obesity in general, it affects the reason why doctors are not really fat phobic. We're scared of the fat is important to the body. It lines our nerves. It actually lines the cells. The problem is the excess fat causes other problems such as hypertension, diabetes, and types of cancers, gout, reproductive disorders, infertility. Some actually present respiratory dysfunction because the girth itself causes problems in breathing. So a bandwidth or a full spectrum of diseases do come about and have an increased risk when a person is actually overweight or obese. So tying into BMI, okay, so we mentioned that BMI worldwide is 25 for overweight and 30 for obese. But in the Asia Pacific, in our area of the world, it's actually tagged as overweight at BMI 23 and obese at 25.
Okay.
It's because the risk of some diseases at BMI 25 for the Asia Pacific population actually mimics the risk of people in other areas at BMI 30.
So it doesn't our race or whatever our
it goes to genetics. We have apparently based on studies there are certain diseases that in our particular genetic profile have a higher risk at lower BMIs. So that's why if people suddenly search BMI cutoffs online, they see two different values. It's not because overweight and obesity is separate from each other. It's that in the Asia Pacific area, we have an increased risk for certain diseases at a lower BMI range. So our hard number is actually 23. So we start worrying at a BMI of 23.
Okay. Thank you, doctor. And then I guess this is a time when you want to tell us also like maybe what food, what kind of food or you know, I guess it's a diet. A diet simply means what you take. What kind of food can like cause obesity and all that, as you mentioned earlier, and then after that, just maybe like what's the healthiest way to lose weight?
Okay, so when it comes to the what foods can actually help you lose weight, there are foods that are called calorically less dense. So the amount of calories packed into a finite amount of space. So highly calorie dense foods include oily foods, deep fried, anything deep fried. And the less dense foods end up being the vegetables, fruits, anything with high fiber. So, but even if some people might say, okay, I can eat a lot of fruits pala and fiber. It's the amount. It's always the amount of food. So even if you eat the low calorie density foods, if there's an excess intake, they're still gonna in a higher range. So what I end up seeing, it's not the essential intake of food that's the problem. It's the excess. It's the extra rice. It's the extra ulam.
The 10 oranges also instead of just 2 or 1, you know.
Yes, it's the round 2 of the buffet.
Yes.
That's what gets you. So in terms of control, I always basically just say it's the meal, the general meal, the plate that is served in front of you when you have a good meal, which is a balanced diet, your meats, your greens, your rice, that's all well and good.
Okay.
The problem happens when you go for the next round.
Yes, as I often do. Well, not really anymore. No, I don't know, man. I want to go for second rounds already because I'm like feeling like I'm losing my appetite. Okay, but anyway, doctor, what are the healthiest ways to lose weight? You already talked about that in terms of like exercise. So is it like the diet, as you said, the food on your plate, you know, and a balanced meal, and probably healthier cooking?
The healthier options, yes. If you can go without deep frying anything, that would be good. So I mentioned a while ago that the oil itself has a lot of calories. So
even extra virgin olive oil. But that's good
It's
fat.
still calories. Yeah, it's fat. So it has calories. So as much we deal with quantity and quality. So shifting to extra virgin would be good. Not frying would be better. And again, the round two is for the quantity naman. Okay?
And the 150 minutes of exercise in a week. That
Yes.
plus that, if you can, for those of us who are persons with disabilities, then there are other things you can do also and work with your physiotherapist or your physical therapist or your occupational therapist. And as you said, doctor, even standing up and holding your hands out, it already burns calories. I mean, yes, that's what I've been saying, but people don't want to believe me and say I'm tired, but okay. Thank you, doctor. Any final words that you'd like to impart to our listeners and our viewers?
Final words. It's always important to get the devil is in the details. So even if something is fad, even if something is heavily talked about, or really the in thing to do right now, it's really important to don't go into it haphazardly. Always check in with someone learned about the situation. So if it's exercise, probably physical trainers or your doctors, your dietitians. If it's diets, lalo na pag diets, your dietitians, your doctors, and obesity medicine. We're here to help. So it's not really that we want to gatekeep. It's that we want to make sure that in the process of losing weight, you're still safe.
Thank you, doctor. In fact, I am looking for clinical dietitians, not for myself, but I should do that too. Yeah. Why not? Eat healthier, I mean, even simple things, guys, like I just don't eat salt and stuff, and it helps also for the BP if you have that problem or whatever it is. Doctor, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you. I can envision myself sitting down with you in a cafe and talking and talking and talking and discussing all these things. You've been such an articulate and I can tell, like, intelligent guest, like you have so much on your mind, but you know how to, you've just pushed out just enough for us to get as much information as we can in an hour. Please do come back on the show. We should talk about like thyroid issues and endocrinology, like other things that you cover even more. I've never quite had a show on obesity where it was approached like in this manner and that it came out in this manner, and I really did enjoy how we spoke about it, and I think it's very different from the past shows on obesity. Like I think those shows, there was really great information given, but this one in particular, it dealt with like more everyday life and everyday things. So thank you so much for being on the show. If you'd like to say hi to anyone, go ahead before we say bye for the week.
Thank you, Nicole. Well, I do hope to see you in around. Around, not in the clinic. So
or maybe I'll bring someone to your clinic. I mean, like I refer a lot of people, so maybe bring someone to the clinic, and as they need to monitor their particular, condition. I know a person with some thyroid issues, not serious so far, but just do it. Okay, so there. Now you're gonna see.
Thank you in advance. But we do our best to take care of the people you refer. The important thing is the conversation gets started. So even simply just walking into the clinic is already a major accomplishment.
Oh, that's exercise, your steps. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for being on the show. Thanks, folks. Thanks to the audience. Thank you, AJ and the tech team. Earlier was like, I don't know what to do on my screen. It always happens to me. Not very good at those things, panicking last minute. So thank you very much. And everybody will be back next week on Healthline with Makati Med. Same time, 5 to 6 p.m. on a Monday. Nadine, my sister, happy birthday. I love you so much. And to my grandmother, Mommy Lou, it's your birthday in heaven today. But actually, where my sister is, it's still the day before her birthday, so I'm going to keep greeting her. Okay, take care, everybody. See you next week on the show. Bye, doctor.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Healthline with expert doctors from Makati Med, giving you the chance to interact, uplifting your lifestyle. Moderated by Nicole Jacinto. Tune in again next week for your weekly dose of Healthline.
The views and comments of the hosts and guests are not necessarily those of the station.